Do you need to start the recording? Great minds think alike. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Again, welcome, folks. I would like to call the meeting to order. We have looks like a pretty informative agenda today. So let's get rolling. We'll go to the first draft of the annual report. Holly and Marty.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to share screen, I think, and Marty's going to do the first part. So let me put up our nifty little PowerPoint here.
Hi, everybody. Did anybody have a chance to read through the packet of stuff we sent? Yeah. All right. It was a lot. I know it was a lot. Also, I don't know if Jennifer, do you know everybody on here already?
Yeah, I believe I do. I haven't seen Hannah for a while, but yes, I know Hannah, and I think I'm not sure if I've met Relene, but I know your work.
Well, Jennifer is our ace in the hole when it comes to report writing, and she's been helping with this annual report, this big beast of a report that we have here in your packet. The report this year is 2 parts. So we're going to talk about the first part and take your feedback, and second part, and then we're going to move on to the action plan, which is came to you as a second separate document. The 2 pieces will be put together in the end, but this is what's in your packet. So I'm going to jump in and talk about the 2 parts of the annual report first. Oh, first I'm going to talk about process. So at the last steering committee meeting, you saw the outline for the annual report and the implementation plan progress report. And like I said, we then produced this draft that you got in your packet, and it includes the IPRTF action plan. So here we are today, and we are going to review these drafts and gather any verbal input you want. We welcome all written input through tomorrow. Then we're going to spend the weekend incorporating that input as much as we can in the time we have before the packet needs to go out to the IPRTF on Monday. So we'll edit and then we'll gather input from the whole IPRTF. And then we'll produce a final draft report. It will come to you. You'll have a little while to review it and get us all your feedback by June 6th. Again, we have to get a packet out to the IPRTF. They'll have a period of time, a brief period of time to review it before we have the approval meeting. At your IPRTF meeting, June 16th, will be hopefully in good shape and can approve that those documents. And we're figuring that all the document parts will be approved at the same time together. And then the report part, the annual report, goes to council. The implementation plan progress report goes to the FAB. And I'm guessing that should say that, I'm guessing that the council will also want that implementation plan progress report. But so it will be all together in one document. So now is the time we want to get feedback on this annual report and implementation plan progress report document. And we have a few questions for you, which are, is anything in this report inaccurate? Our concern right now is not with how it looks, or formatting, or kind of the sexy parts that will be developed for a more public-facing document. Our concern right now is with the accuracy of the information. And so we want to catch anything that doesn't sound right. And then, or anything that's missing, we want to add that. And if anything seemed unclear to you, or confusing, this would be a good time to point it out, and we'll try and clarify it. So it's open to y'all. Yeah, Peter.
You've got my notes from this weekend, and there was one of my notes around the accuracy of the application administrator having been hired, and I gave Perry Rice a call this week and to check in on a number of things in the report. That person is working half-time, not full-time, and that is because they have not backfilled his position even after a full year. So that is that's the only thing that I found that was inaccurate. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bertie?
I think this was in the implementation plan report. It was on page 19 and 18 and 19, but under project 6, it was talking about increasing the capacity of effective existing programs for diversion and those types of things. And it was listing accomplishments and then saying that it has leading to improved outcomes and reduced recidivism was the first bullet or the second bullet. And there were other similar statements. And I'm 100% behind all this. And I believe that it's going to, but I know the questions I'm going to get. What's the data? Can you show that it has? And so I had some concerns because a segment of the public is really vociferous about wanting us to demonstrate data on what we're doing. And so I would be more cautious about making those statements if we can't support it. And I would like to think we can, but my guess is we can't. So I would suggest wording it a little differently, that we hope will or should increase, or something that acknowledges that we don't have that data if in fact we don't.
I made I think the same comment in my notes and agree with you on that. And if if Kayla and the executive's office has some data, or health has some data, I would love to see it and brought forward to support those statements.
The reports from the executive office pull from the health department's reports to them, and that's where this information came from. So I don't know if, I don't want to put Hannah on the spot now, but if you do have anything to add, chime in. Otherwise, I'll just circle back with Melora, who because I think it would be the response systems division work where this data is being kept and coming from.
Yeah, Bertie?
Oh, Dan, go ahead first if you want.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to, thank you. Packet page 13. most of the way down, the Behavioral Health Committee, the paragraph that starts with that. At the end of that paragraph, it says the program, and it's referring to DeGual wellness for the mobile medical units. So just to be for the sake of accuracy, Division Street will not be the only location for those units. One will be there, but there's the other one will be somewhere else, and that is TBD. We don't know exactly where that's at. So there's that piece. I don't know if how you want to phrase that, or if you want to not even acknowledge that, that's fine too. And then the other piece, that short paragraph right below that begins with fund development will be needed to move planned facilities and services forward. It refers to the state legislature. The legislature wrapped up on the 27th, and I don't know to what extent, and there's more if you keep scrolling down to the next page. Ledge priorities, capital budget request to fund construction of the BCC. I don't know to what extent you want to like update this in terms of, what's now we have data. So do we want to use it, or do we want to use the old stuff? I just wanted to bring us up to date on that.
No, that's what's one thing I had too, Dan, is update on the lead stuff. So we might want to look at what the kind of final results were.
Yeah, is that something, Barry? Pardon me. Is that something that your staff can do as the county, or how do you want to do that?
Well, we can take a look at, we have a wrap up document, I believe. Jill, don't we have one from the executive's office that we could use to get to Holly and Marty?
I'll look into it. The council got an update at their meeting on Tuesday on this, correct? So I'll look at that and connect with Holly and Marty and Jennifer on that.
Thanks. We do want this as up to date as we can get it by the time the final draft goes out.
Right. Thank you, guys. Yeah, Bertie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still back on the data piece. If this came from the health department, my sense of the health department, and there's nobody here to correct me, so I want people to realize it's just my sense, is they have some really good data, but they have not reached a point where they feel confident consistently publicizing it. But I'm wondering if they have data to suggest that these things have happened. Perhaps there could be an append or something where they just put sample data to support these statements. Because I think there is more data there than is publicly available, and it would be nice to provide some evidence of what's being done. So that would be my suggestion if the health department is comfortable with that.
Yeah, Hannah, do you have any thoughts on this? Again, not to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, sorry, I'm traveling. Wasn't intending to speak and just listening in. I can't see right now what you're referencing, but I'm happy to look into that and provide email back, how we could better articulate what data we have or don't have. If that means rewording it, then I'm happy to propose different language so that it's a little bit more transparent on what it's trying to communicate.
It's Project 6 is the part on page 19 to help you out when you're not traveling.
Yeah, great. I will definitely look into it. Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, Dan?
Yeah. So packet page 14, top of the list here, or under behavioral health system, it refers to Medicaid reimbursement. I think it would be helpful if we could, and this is following up on what Bertie just said, if we could actually list what the Medicaid reimbursement rates are, so that it's public information. It's not 100%, so that's important, and it affects service provision and providers coming online or staying in the system. So I would request that data be included. And then under court processes, there's a workload standard that refers to public defenders' offices across the state. That statement and the statements that follow are at cross purposes with what the city and what I provided in testimony to the Washington State Supreme Court. If the city were required to bring in the number of public defenders that was proposed, it would be a serious financial impact, and it's not sustainable, and we don't need additional public defenders at the municipal level for anything under gross misdemeanor and below. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that, and if you need further clarification, we can connect the authors of this document with our policy and our legal team.
Great. In terms of being able to access that, the Medicaid reimbursement rates, Dan, do you have a suggestion for how we might be able to find that?
I would suggest that Councilmember Buchanan's policy analyst provide or dig that up and look for that. Barry, do you have someone that can find that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do. So,
Okay.
Jill, can you take note of that? We'll ask Kirsten if she's got some time this week to look into that.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
And then, Dan, I have a feeling we'll probably follow up with you on the workload standards point.
Yeah, and I can refer you to our Tammy Bennett is the person, Tami Bennett, common spelling at courts, that she could provide that information, as well as our legal team as well. So Alan Mariner is our city attorney, and he can provide you with that data.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Raylene?
Yeah, I was just thinking Nicole Kalin at the jail might actually have that information as well on Medicaid information. She does a lot of the jail billing, which might have some information for you.
What was the name? I didn't catch it.
It's Nicole Kalin, Kalin. I'm sure Caleb would be able to help you out with getting her information if needed.
Great. Okay. Hi, Maya. Hi, Heather. Glad you're here. Okay, what we're focusing on right now is the annual report and then the Justice Project Implementation Plan progress report, which are bundled together. So that's anything that you're seeing that's inaccurate, important stuff that is missing, things that aren't clear. What we're looking for is just anything people have today or in writing by tomorrow, so we can make those edits and get it into the packet for the IPRTF. Okay, so anything else at this point? Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, I don't mean to be talking too much here, but I did want to just ask a question here on packet page 14, housing supply and affordability. It refers to a regulatory framework and capital and operational funding, but it doesn't mention zoning, the changes that were made via House Bill 1110 that open up different housing types throughout communities. So that would be basically not the elimination of single family zoning, but it does allow for different housing types up to fourplexes and things like that. So that would create a different kind of housing supply than we currently have. And to whatever degree that contributes to what's mentioned here with housing options for individuals with severe behavioral health conditions and such. We see that in my own neighborhood. There's a operation called Greggy's Place. It's over by behind Trader Joe's, and it's a duplex, and they're able to house up to 6 people within that, and it's because of the housing type. And these are folks that have challenges. So I don't know if we want to talk about that. It gets kind of wonky pretty quick, but we could contribute some of that information into this report if that is deemed usable or worthwhile.
Right. Thank you. Maya?
Hi, on page 13, leading into 14 court processes, there's a very brief statement about possible funding increases needed for public defense. And then there's a one-line sentence that says funding is also needed to meet various state mandates. For example, domestic violence, no contact orders. I found that sentence to be, I wasn't really sure what it was saying. I wasn't sure what it was talking about. And it just seemed very vague and sort of like a half thought, and it could maybe use more detail.
Right. Great feedback. Thank you. And, you know, as we are moving along, Jennifer and Marty, if you're hearing things that you want more clarification from the commenters, please jump in, okay? Raylene?
Thanks for pointing that out, Maya. I agree with you. I think there is funding needs, but I think it should probably be two separate line items, and we have requirements in the court that we have to meet. But the public defender's office is, it impacts, it's a huge impact on court resources, but that is also, they're two separate thoughts. So I can see if I can figure out how to separate that for you and get it back to you later on today or tomorrow.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, I have a feeling that if there's things that are going to be some more data that we're going to have to seek out, we might not have all that into the packet that goes out to the IPRTF, but at least, you know, we'll get a start and we'll fix the things we can. So thank you guys for reading it. Thanks for your great feedback. That was, yeah, really, really great. So glad. It's so nice when you send a group a large document and they've actually read it. It's very good. It's a happy moment. Raylene, your hand is still up. Did you have one more comment? Nope. Okay.
No. Hey, Holly, would it make sense to reorder the agenda and have the action plan next? And you guys roll right into that, and then we can do the Justice Project, the ordinance discussion after
Yeah.
that? I think it does to me. So why don't you guys go ahead?
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks, Barry. All right. And Heather and Peter, I think your names were technically on this, but Marty and I are prepared to speak about the action plan, unless there's something you want to weave in or tee us up.
No, please go ahead.
Thanks for being here, Jennifer. I know you need to go. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, so the action plan is the body of work that we have that we've been plugging away on, trying to figure out how to approach it, and this document is really for the IPRTF. So it will be linked to the report, but it really isn't more of like our working material. So I will share a screen for this. It's just very short. But this is as much time as we have today. This is the place that we were hoping to really spend some time and make sure that we've got good alignment here. So here we are. So we're here on the IPRTF action plan. And you'll notice it was interesting to work on this because a lot of it was really clarifying systems. And then the second part is really about gathering what information we had to put together what we thought were the committee priorities that linked to, of course, our larger IPRTF priorities. So again, we're asking the questions very similar. Is there anything in the plan that's inaccurate? Any critical information that's missing? Anything that needs to be clarified? And the reality is that on some of those committees, we were just doing our best. So if you guys have corrections, this would be a good time to let us know what they are. So the floor is open. Anything on the action plan in terms of how it's laid out? Does it make sense to you? And is there anything that needs to get corrected? Did you guys get a chance to look at it? Let's start with that.
Holly, I did. I went through it all, and I thought it was a just remarkably accurate and good telling of the process that we have had. And I would leave it up to our committee members, in particular our committee chairs, for those to review those sections. I was oriented around.
Can you say that last part again, Peter? You cut out the very last part.
Sorry.
Leave it up to the co-chairs.
Well, yeah, leave it up to the
Oh,
co-chairs and
it's
committee
frozen.
members. Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that the overall frame of the plan was working for you. And that I think is the question is, so co-chairs, do you feel like you've had enough time to look at that and see, is that accurate? Do you need more time for that?
For your committee chairs,
Mm-hmm.
for your committees.
For your committees?
I know I need some more time to look at it. I looked at the the annual report, but I have not got a deep dive into the action plan yet.
Great. Okay.
The way we were pulling from everything that's been done so far with, and going back through meeting notes basically for your committee meetings and trying to glean what you were focusing on. So that's where the content came from. I'm sure it needs adjustment for all those committee plans. Raylene, you have some ideas?
I just wanted to kind of echo what Barry said. I need a little bit more time to go through this and analyze it a little bit more to make sure that we're putting in there what needs to be there. Sorry.
Well, if everybody can just give us your notes by tomorrow, we'll update stuff for the packet going out on Monday. Thank you.
Let's just give that time. And don't be hesitant to slash it, like redline it up, add things, subtract things. Like it really is, it should reflect your committee's work. So, yeah, don't be shy. You guys think you can do that by tomorrow? Is that possible?
I'm a no. I need a week, not a day, but
Okay. Well, then let's just assume that in terms of ranking the priorities, making sure that we've got the annual report and the Justice Project implementation plan, that's at a kind of a higher level. This action plan is at a lower level. So if, within a week, is that reasonable that we could get that done? Everybody? Dan, Maya, Raylene, Birdie, does that seem reasonable? Yes, thumbs up.
So then that raises a question, should the action plan go in the packet for the IPRTF to see in whatever stage it's in by Monday?
I would suggest yes. Just get it out there and get as many reflections on it as possible. There's still time to change the action plan and update it.
Okay. So let's just make sure it's got a big draft on the top of that,
Yes. Yeah.
Draft, more draft. Good. Okay. Does that feel good for everybody? Any concerns with that? Okay. Yay. Thank you all. That was super helpful. And I think we're ready. Barry, I'll turn it back over to you.
okay, thanks, Holly. Our item number 3, Justice Project Implementation Plan and the Ordinance 2023-039. There's been a lot of conversations going on around this project about changing, updating, and there's been a lot of great suggestions. So we, at our planning team meeting last week, we talked about what does that process look like? So I dug into the ordinance and discovered some, I remember some conversation and discovered some things that are in the ordinance. And that is, number one, that the implementation plan is Exhibit A to the ordinance. That was how it was promulgated. So it has, and the council wanted it to have change control. We just didn't want willy-nilly changes being made to the implementation plan. We wanted a process that goes through an ordinance, a public hearing, and so on. very deliberate process. So what we came up with and wanted to share with you today is, I think the way to go is for us, if we have changes, we submit them in to for the task force to consider. If the task force agrees on those recommendations, we can send that to the council, and the council can keep some sort of a record of those requests. And when we do get into a revision or update time for the plan, we'll have those particular items on file. The ordinance calls for 2 timeframes for updates. One is a 2-year. Every 2 years, you must do a analysis on the spending plan and do an update. I suspect that's a lot of work for the FAB, due to the fact that they're in the financial world. But anyway, that's one update. The other one is every 5 years is the content of the plan, over and above just the spending plan. So that's kind of what the official process is. The way it's worded is the executive in collaboration with the task force and the Law and Justice Council. So the task force is definitely called out as a collaborator with the executive's office. Jill, help me out. I see your hand popping up.
I just wanted to let you know, Barry, I sent you an email on Monday adding some more of the statutes regarding the process in addition to that section 8 there. That should be in your email box, and I'm happy to send it around to all the other steering committee members as well. And I also sent along with that a suggested process that defines who initiates amendments, who reviews proposed amendments, and who would approve amendments following all of that review. So I don't know, Barry, if you had a chance to look at those emails from me earlier this week.
No, we had council on Tuesday and I'm still scrambling to catch up, but I
Got
will
it.
get to that. Thank you for doing that. That's awesome,
Sure.
because that's exactly what we need. So we will get that circulated in the next, I'll look at it today, Joe, and get
Okay.
back to you right away.
I'll resend it so it's at the top of your email.
Okay. So that's great that we have a draft process, but is there any questions about that kind of logic? I know that the council was one of their concerns was not getting outside of the normal public record for changes. So that's why we made that decision to make the implementation plan an exhibit to the ordinance. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to next steps for the Crisis Stabilization Facility Committee. Peter, do you have an update on that at all? I know we've carried this over for a couple meetings.
We have. I just want to check in. I am in a cove in the islands, and so it sounds like I froze earlier. Are you able to hear me at this point?
Yeah, I thought you were maybe being held prisoner in the hold of a ship, but you are on a boat, right?
I am on a boat. Yep, exactly. Let's see. So we held this over because I think we just wanted some time to go by to see whether we wanted to revive this committee or change its purpose. In our last IPRTF meeting, we had such an excellent conversation around the Ann Deacon Center, and I think it just kind of goes to show that we've not been getting the normal reporting that we were used to with the crisis. And so I guess a lot of things happened there, and good things happened at the Ann Deacon Center. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you broke up a minute ago, but you're in and out.
Okay, so sorry.
Turn off your video and just try hitting us with audio.
Okay, will do. Okay, hopefully this is better. Can you hear me all right?
So far, so good.
Okay, so the idea was, I was just pointing out that in the last IPRTF meeting, we had a really good discussion about the Ann Deacon Center, the Crisis Stabilization Center, and some of this good news came as a surprise because we have not been getting our normal reporting from that committee. So I would be for just letting this committee end as long as we can get regular reporting on a monthly or every 2-month basis from our partners there at Pioneer and Compass and the health department.
So Jill,
Any discussion? Yeah, just wanted to get everybody's thoughts and opinions on that.
so my first question would be for Jill. What would be the process to officially sunset a subcommittee?
I believe it would require a vote of the IPRTF.
That's what I thought. Would this committee probably make a recommendation?
If this committee wants to make a formal recommendation, then you can take a vote here as well to do that.
Do we have a quorum today?
We do. We did a minute ago. Let me look. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
Okay, Peter, would you like to consider this as a formal recommendation from steering? If you do, just go ahead and make a motion.
I move that we sunset the Crisis Stabilization Committee and encourage. Is it bi-monthly? Is bi-monthly every 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay, bi-monthly reporting from Pioneer, Compass, and Health Department.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Dan? It's been seconded. Discussion, Dan?
Do we have the cooperation of those agencies to provide those reports?
We certainly did when we had the committee, and Perry from the health department, who has retired now, he would put those reports together and put them out to the committee. So I know that they were getting that reporting. And are you still on? Do you know
Hannah.
what sort of
Hannah's on.
reporting is happening?
Go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, I collect the data monthly. I just haven't been asked for it. So in 2024, I was asked for it. So I just gave it when it was requested. So I'm happy I collect it every month. It's there. I just don't know who or what entity wants it. So just let me know.
Okay, sounds like question answered there. Birdie? You're
I
on.
was just wondering if quarterly would be frequent enough. I'm aware of the increasingly full agendas on the IPRTF, and it sounded when we had our report that we hadn't had in a while that things were really going well. So that would be my only suggestion, Peter, is to change your amendment to quarterly.
I would
Peter,
be
what would
fine
be
with that,
your
Birdie. Quarterly's fine,
fr-
Barry. Yeah.
friendly amendment? It will be quarterly. Is a seconder of that motion okay with that? Okay, I get a big nod from Raylene. So it's now a sunset, but we're asking, requesting reports quarterly. Dan?
To who do those reports go to? Is that to steering, behavioral health?
Jill? I would start there. Jill, is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. And then I would need further direction if it's something you want me to schedule on an agenda somewhere quarterly, or if it's fine to just forward those reports to all the IPRTF members.
Okay, as long as we get it in your hands, I think we're good to go. You'll direct that to the right place. Stephen?
Thank you, Barry. Our prior conversations on this subject leading up to today have floated the possibility of expanding the scope beyond just the Ann Deacon Center as the Crisis Stabilization Center. Dan's heading a work group in the Behavioral Health Committee that's looking at Division Street more comprehensively, and there are a lot of options. Kayla's talking about does the 23-hour crisis relief center pencil out? So there are a lot of balls in the air on this, and we've talked about trying to coalesce all those questions together within sort of an amended charge committee, and the motion seems to preempt that. I don't recall that we've resolved those questions, so I just throw out that observation that we seem to be putting aside something we've talked about but not decided to date.
Peter?
I appreciate Stephen bringing that up. That really was a direction that I was thinking that we would change the charter. However, it seems to me that there was enough there's enough motion around the churn basically that Stephen is referring to, so many questions on the table, that perhaps a new committee with a new charter might be more appropriate than changing it. So that was my thinking, Stephen. And at any moment we could decide that the constellation of our committees is not quite enough, and that a new committee would be needed to take care of some of these other issues. That was kind of my thinking.
And I think that's a plausible approach. It just seems like that's a precursor decision for us to make. I understand that's your leaning now, Peter, after thinking through this. It seems that if we're going to make a recommendation, that ought to be our recommendation, or somehow articulate that as the rationale for the motion. You know, it would also seem just as easy to continue holding the Crisis Stabilization Committee as a dormant entity until we figure out what some of those floating questions look like, and then we can re-energize it or sunset it and constitute a new committee at that point.
Any other discussion? So co-chairs, are you both comfortable with this motion? Obviously Peter is. How about Heather? You haven't spoke.
I don't know. I was like,
Sorry, didn't get that.
Heather, your sound is kind of coming in and out in a strange way. I have a feeling I got a sense maybe she was on the phone or something.
Oh, I see. And just was unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Is everybody comfortable taking a vote on this? We don't
I guess
vote.
I have one more thing to say. I appreciate Stephen's statement about this. I don't know. I'm still feeling like it's time to sunset this, and that one of the reasons I really wanted to try to say was that we just not been getting the reporting to the IPRTF, who really needs to be hearing what's going on at Ann Deacon Center. And so as long as that reporting is coming through, I'd be willing to drop this motion. We just hold on to long reform it. Gosh, I don't know. I'd still like to go ahead with the motion. That's my thought, unless there's a strong objection.
Well, the vote will be the objection. That'll be that meter.
Yeah,
Bernie?
that's true. You're
Look,
very correct.
I have a question for Stephen, because your point is well taken. I guess what I'm wondering is how useful it is to have a committee just kind of in limbo for longer than 6 months, versus if at the moment it appears to be going well and it's functioning well. I would think the behavioral health subcommittee would factor that in, and we could expect your subcommittee to make recommendations about the whole Division Street. And if they had changes for the end deacon, then we could either expand it to a bigger committee, or just your subcommittee could bring that forward through the behavioral health.
I think that would be a workable approach as well. I don't have a right answer to this. I was just noting we were sort of short-circuiting an earlier question.
Anything else on the motion? All right, those in favor of the motion, please raise your little yellow hands. Oops. Okay, you can take your hands down. And those opposed? I see one opposed. And Jill, did you get the ayes?
Yes, I didn't get a vote from Barry and Stephen.
I voted aye at the last second.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I don't favor or oppose. I'm gonna abstain on this.
And I was just going to call for abstentions.
Okay, thank you.
Those that wish to abstain. I'll count Stephen as that in that category. So the motion passes, and we will report that out to the task force. All right, we're on to items for the next task force agenda. Jill?
Yeah, thank you. The list that I have right now is the Crisis Stabilization Facility Committee next steps. So that can either be so that would be an excuse me, sorry, today's vote would carry over to the agenda. Also, we have booking restrictions, the first draft of the annual report, and then review of the IPRTF calendar and action plan. One note about the agenda for May 12th is because the last IPRTF meeting was so recent, there will not be any committee reports because committees this month are happening after the IPRTF meeting.
Where do we stand with the report on booking restrictions? Do you know? Does anybody know?
Where do we stand with it? What you mean? Who
Well,
scheduled?
we had it on two different agendas and we booted it. I'm just wondering, have we communicated with the sheriff to get that back on the agenda? I think
Yes.
everyone's very interested in that.
Yes.
And I wanted to speak to that. They are all lined up to speak to that. I'm really wanting to encourage everybody to attend this meeting who has a stake in the relaxation of booking restrictions, so we can have a robust conversation. It did get booted, but not because of lack of interest. It was just scheduling.
Is it still on
Purely pure and
is it still
simple.
on the 12th? Sorry, is it? I
Yes,
thought it was okay.
it's on the 12th, and I
Okay.
do have your confirmation from back in April. If you want to reconfirm, that would be great. I also have confirmations from Hannah Sloan on behalf of the jail behavioral health folks, the providers. I have not heard from the prosecutor.
Okay. Well,
And
I'm really hoping that we do get that finally through our agenda, because that's super important. Anything else? Any other thoughts about our agenda upcoming or even a month after? Marty?
Yeah, we also have Julia Goret coming to the meeting on the 12th to give an update on the performance measurement plan process.
Okay.
You know, this is something I haven't done, but we should maybe ask her if she has anything she wants to include in the meeting packet to show people. I can,
Oh,
Jill,
go ahead.
I'll send her a little email right now and ask her that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Stephen?
Is it too soon to expect a fairly exhaustive description and then analysis of implications from the legislative session for all of our work?
Well, I think I've kind of taken that on as a initial assignment to get some stuff from the executive's office. And when we get something in a report form, we'll get it out to everyone. And then I guess you're asking maybe a report out at the May 12th meeting, right, Stephen?
Or yeah, an opportunity for some discussion about that, since
Do we know, is Kayla going to be there for anything else, or because she would be great, her or Jed?
I don't have her scheduled for anything.
Okay. Peter?
I just wanted to point out that today's Seattle Times has a quick update on behavioral health and mental health spend, what has passed in the session. And while it wasn't deeply informative, it was definitely of interest and helpful, I think, for everybody on this screen.
Okay. Okay, sounds like we're good for our meeting on the 12th. Other business, I did have one other thing to talk about. I mentioned talking in the planning team about the implementation plan and changes. One other thing we discussed was the future of the planning team. It seemed to be, we had a couple instances where we had to cancel because of lack of agenda items. So we discussed kind of that same conversation around sunsetting. And really what we came up with, of course, we talked 52 minutes or so on the process about changing the implementation plan. So we kind of looked at ourselves and said, well, maybe there is work to be done in this group, but maybe it's something that we don't need to meet as often. So we decided to try a next step, which would be once a month meeting for the planning team. And Jill will be updating the invites, I think, or you maybe already have to that. Is that correct, Jill? Or you will be, or you have?
I will be, yes.
Yeah. That was one other thing I had. Holly?
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I was just listening to this last conversation. I wanted to go back to like what's going to be on the agenda and just making sure that we look at our calendar every time and even add a section at the bottom of it. I want to share screen for a minute. But here's our calendar, right? And here we are. There's our May 12th, our original plan. So just these are so important. There's so many good topics, and just this whole last conversation we had was like, like we want to fit these things in. So I just want to, I think we should start a little section at the bottom of like other things we know we want to talk about, that then we just don't forget them, and then we can add them in. So I know it's a little silly process thing, but I just think we don't want to lose them. So that I'm going to suggest, I'm just going to put a section at the bottom so we can add these and keep track of them, and then, stick them in as we are able.
Oh yeah, we don't want to lose sight of those. Peter?
Actually, I have a few things that might go in that list, and I wanted to. I did a little thinking this weekend around what topics are, I think, of import to this group, or at least import to me, and wanted to bring them forward for possible inclusion in upcoming meetings. Could I take a little bit of time and just go through those as a list, and then we could discuss to whatever degree anybody's interested, or just put them in a list and leave them there for another day? Does that sound all right, Barry?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay. Oh, and before I do, I just want to let everybody know that we have 2 copies of a great book called Trauma Informed Design, a framework for designers, architects, and other practitioners that the library has ordered for us for our use in planning around our new jail and our new behavioral care center. And this is just sort of kind of overview of what trauma informed design is and how it can be applied. So I've got 1 copy. There is another one at the library for any one of you to take out. So on my mind is it would be just so helpful to me, I know, to have a better understanding of the landscape of funding for behavioral health and criminal justice. What is that? I think I know a good portion of it, but I think it might be helpful for all of us to have a high level view of where our funding comes from for these really important programs that we are so involved with. And this kind of comes from a question that Heather brought up in our last IPRTF meeting. I think that could be integrated perhaps, or at least enlightened by a presentation. I'm not sure who the presenter is, but for instance, I don't know where the spending goes for the behavioral health levy, 1% levy that we've had for some 15 years. And it would be just so helpful to understand where all that money goes. I think each and every one of our programs has multiple forms of funding. So it would be great IPRTF topic. So there's that. And then treatment availability and access. I'm really interested in this point. Dan has mentioned a number of times that Dijawalik has great capacity of 400 people, treatment of 400 people a day, yet they're getting about 4 or 14, something in that realm. And it has just been it's been years now where people have been critical of our community's lack of treatment. It now seems that we may have an excess of treatment, or at least we have a lot of it. And I just want to have a conversation about that and a presentation to understand just where we are with MAT and treatment in our community for all the different economic groups, but particularly the justice involved among us. That, anytime that you have resources, you want to make sure that they're being directed well, and a good conversation around that, or at least a knowledge base for us, would be helpful. And then a behavioral health criminal justice data strategy. Julia is going to be finishing up her work, and in my conversation with Perry Rice the other day on IT, there was a lot of work's been done. However, I don't sense that we know where we're going next. And I sure don't want a gap to emerge, because we're so behind the ball with data. And it's so important to us that a robust conversation just as soon as possible about where we're going next and how that's going to be decided upon and who's leading it would be really a good one. And then finally, both Pioneer and Compass representatives mentioned to us in our last meeting that they are very they're very interested this year in improving the continuum of care in Whatcom County. And I know that is one of our very important implementation plan goals. And I do know that the health department does have a monthly meeting, I believe. Maybe it's even twice a month with all providers, and as a way of sharing information, and it's meant to improve the continuum of care and communications, better communications. However, I think that we probably need more discussion around that, and a plan um, uh, f- for improving that that very important task. And I was delighted that Pioneer and Compass really felt that that was something that they were going to work on this year. But that should come before IPRTF, as far as I'm concerned, an update on where we are, where we're going. So those are the things that I'm interested in, and I'd be very interested in hearing if others are as well.
Well, thanks, Peter. That was it's a lot. That's great. Gertie?
Yes, I was just back on the May calendar, wondering about the timing of Julia Garrett's presentation from Village Reach. She will be completing her work at the end of June, and I think the very most important time for her to present would be either the June or if, I don't know, after her contract, if there was a way she could present to our July meeting. But I think what we want to hear is what is the final recommendations from her. And if she does that in May, she'll have another 6 weeks. And so is that the correct timing or not?
I think the plan is for her to come back in June as well, before her contract ends. I asked her about July, and she said she would be done by then.
Yeah, okay,
So
so
we'll
do
just
we
try and
need her
catch her
both
then.
times? It's not that I am not interested in what she has. I've been privileged to hear her already. My concern is timing, because I think all of us anticipate a lengthy discussion about booking, and wanted to make sure that that and the annual report doesn't overcrowd the agenda. That was my only point.
We can ask, we can tell her how much time she has for on the agenda, and she'll fit it. I think the idea was just to give folks an update on where she is in the process, and then use the June one for the final plan and data dashboards. So she'll get a little bit of perhaps feedback and direction from the group in May, while she still has time to incorporate it.
Well, Heather, you had your hand up, then you disappeared. Now you're back. So go ahead.
My iPhone overheated. Can you hear me okay?
Is it that warm outside, or is it just your iPhone?
I think it was just the windshield, sun.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for your patience with me. I just had a few quick things for the record. One is, for our IPRTF full meeting agenda, I'd love for there to be a regular spot of these are the top 3 goals, just listed on every agenda. And are there any updates or progress made around these 3 goals? So rereading our top 10 goals and our action plan. Can you still hear me? Marty, I'm looking at you. Can you hear me? Okay. Like having a spot that's like, okay, number 1 was designing jail and BCC. Number 2 was data dashboard. Number 3 was evaluating diversion programs. So like switching our agendas to be goal focused, and are there any updates from people about, are we making progress on these things? So 1, 2, at the planning team meeting, I thought it was really interesting. We got into a very good conversation about the ordinance that established the jail sales use tax and the different perspectives on that 50%, whether that was required to go to community behavioral health services or not. And it just made, I think all of us left that meeting with a desire to want to get clarification and bring that to the Finance Advisory Board specifically to debate and understand. And Barry, thank you for sharing what the legislative intent was. And then there was just different interpretations of that ordinance. And that is part of the impetus of why I've been saying, okay, let's talk about scenario planning, because we need to understand what commitments we made and be on the same page about those. And I don't even think internally we always are on the same page about those. So just for the good of the order, wanted to share that Kayla has invited me and Peter. Barry, you were invited, but I think you're unable to join, to an administration conversation they're starting on Monday about the behavioral care center. And of course, we will share any updates that are important and relevant and try to represent well. And then the last thing that I want to share is a huge thank you to Marty and Holly and Dan Hamill for helping organize a field trip to Deidre this week. And I just think it was for J-pop participants, and I was able to join. And the building, of course, is beautiful, but even more impactful is learning about the culture and the practices. And I know you've all probably heard this, but just for the public record, I just want to say it is so impressive that their culture of human-centeredness, where the security guards know people's birthdays and the coordinators working in the building check in on people throughout the day. If you're 10 minutes late to your appointment, the response is, we're so glad you're here. It's not, hey, you got to reschedule. It's just like, I wish the culture could be like that everywhere, where we're just taking care of people. And how can we build that in Whatcom County? And Leon, the outreach coordinator there, did say that he would love help getting connected to people. And I think that would help Peter with some of that uptake of, just getting the word out. I heard a little story about they have a mobile clinic out, one of those really upriver cities, small towns in Skagit. I can't remember the name right now, like Concrete maybe, but where they started out similarly with 4 or 5 clients, but then just word of mouth grew about the services, and by the end of the year there were 45 or more, maybe even more than that. But so I just want us to have enough patience and support that outreach, and if there's a place Leon can plug in here, that would be awesome, I think. So thanks.
Well, thank you. Those are great, great suggestions. Our co-chairs have definitely been doing some thinking. That's awesome. Anything else? We kind of moved into other business. So is there anything else people want to talk about before we go to public comment? All right. Bill, is there anyone in the conference room or aboard with us online that would like to speak to the steering committee?
I don't see anyone in the conference room, and our only attendee is Hannah, who's already here. So Hannah, if you'd like to make some comments to the committee, go for it.
All right, I'll just say one thing that Peter's suggestion around looking at the funding for various programs made me think of some things I've been thinking about for the last couple of months, and that is with all the funding and uncertainties we have, and now we know a little bit more about the state because the budget's been they've been adjourned now. We don't know a lot about federal, but I think at some point in time, we're going to need to do almost another gap analysis exercise and an update of the SIM to reflect kind of the current landscape. I don't think we're settled enough and know enough to be able to accurately do that, but I think that's something we should keep on our radar. That's important to do. That SIM is kind of the roadmap to everything, and it's always been a great vehicle for us. So that would be something I would kind of add into Peter's thinking around identifying all these different funding sources. Peter?
To that point, I couldn't agree more, Barry. The update of the SIM is something that we've been talking about for a while. I believe it was put forward as a priority for the health department, but then I was told that it just couldn't be in the work plan. There was too much going on. Maybe Hannah, if you're available to speak on that, that would be helpful for an update. But yes, let's not let go of that, and let's keep bringing it up.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, we did. Dean put a lot of time into that actually, and we were able to get work with the AOC, who offered to conduct it for free, but it was so time intensive, and with what's going on with all of the committees and all the work being done, after exploring how much it would take, it just did not seem possible with all of the other things. But I'm happy to partner back up with Dean and revisit that if that's something that people think they have the capacity for. But they were very clear that it takes a substantial amount of time from many people to do well. So
Absolutely. I totally agree, Hannah. I just wanted to make sure we don't lose sight of that conversation. I guess that was my intent. Marty?
I agree, Barry. And Hannah, I think another piece of that feedback from the AOC that I recall is that they felt like we'd already kind of moved through a lot of what they would do. Like we were seemed like we were ahead of the process, given all the work we've done already, and that we may or may not need that 2-day process. We might need something a little different, but maybe we should go back and explore it with them.
Holly?
See how flexible they are.
Yeah. Thanks. I was just adding those onto our little list, Barry, when you were talking. And that made me think about this legislative update. I felt like that came up earlier today too, of people just wanting to know what happened. I'm wondering, should we carve out, if we keep Julia's time kind of short, should we add a little tiny bit of time for a legislative update at the IPRTF meeting?
I would say it'd be a good idea to reserve it, and we could see if we can get somebody to give us a good but short presentation. Let me know about how much time you think we need, and we can have that conversation with the executive's office.
Okay.
So who should I invite then to do that? Do you want me to invite Kayla or Sat Paul to do that?
I would say send it to all three, including Jed. So
Okay.
Sat Paul, Jed, and Kayla.
Thank you.
And just ask it, and then let us know what you need, and Holly, and then we'll make the request.
Okay.
Anything else for the good of the order? I know we have to talk a little bit about the letter that came from district court, and so I'm going to adjourn the steering committee meeting. Jill, what